Ladies and gentlemen, strap in for this episode of Do It because it's a fun one. You'll see how we made this attractive tap handle on a CNC machine. It's got engraved text as well as a very fine 3D carve, all mounted onto a chrome ferrule that fits any standard pressurized beverage faucet. Of course, we need to start with a design. I modeled this project specifically for CNC operations in Vectric Aspire. That process won't be covered here, but go ahead and subscribe because it's likely I'll be posting some in-depth tutorials on how to design in several different applications. For this project, I knew I needed a piece that was nearly an inch thick. So I'm kind of digging through my scrap here and I found a nice piece of birch. Now, I've been asked about my hold down system before. It's actually a series of holes drilled into the aluminum bed of the CNC machine underneath my MDF sacrificial table, which is great because I don't have to worry about vacuum, I don't have to worry about drilling screws directly into the sacrificial table. I can just bolt the piece down. So for this first set of cuts, I'm using a 1/4 inch upcut spiral end mill. Upcut is great for chip clearing and in cases where you don't have to worry so much about the top face finish quality. And basically I'm recessing the material around the 3D image and the mountains. Here I'm using an 1/8 inch end mill just around the contours of the 3D image, and that's going to save a lot of time with the 3D finishing toolpath. For all the standard engraving, you'll see me use a 1/4 inch 60-degree V-bit. Here it's outlining the already recessed area, and before I do the text, I like to use a mask from Avery that's going to help with the bleeding before I paint any of the text. In most 3D finishing toolpaths, you could get away with a 1/4 inch ballnose. In this case, with as small as the airplane is on the tap handle, I'm using a tapered 1/32 inch ballnose bit, and it can handle all those minute details at this scale. And for the final shape, I use the same 1/4 inch upcut spiral to profile out the entire piece. No matter how good your bits are or your machine is, there's always going to be some minute shaving to do to make it look as good as it can. So here I am by hand getting rid of a few imperfections. Since I'm using spray paint to color in the text, I mask off the rest of the handle with some painter's tape and paper, and that'll protect the rest of it from being colored in. Suddenly it's painted black. Now I'm just kidding. I think we forgot to hit record there, so there's no footage of the actual spray painting. But after a couple of coats, you peel off the mask and look how beautiful that is. That's why I love to use the mask, because it protects so much of the rest of the material. All it takes is a little touch-up sanding and you'll see just how beautiful it is with very little effort. Now, one downfall to using CNC routing is if you don't want your piece to fly away from the source material, you have to insert tabs, and that takes a little bit of sanding, and with a little TLC you can sand to the point where they don't even exist, kind of like right here. After working my way up from 80 grit, I finally make it to 220, and here I am doing that by hand so I can get every little nook and cranny. Next, I have to install the hardware that's going to hold the handle to the ferrule to the faucet. And I start by marking the center, taking it over to the drill press, and with the right size bit and keeping it as straight as possible, I can then thread in the insert that will then feed into the ferrule. To thread in the insert, it's as easy as locking two nuts together and twisting it into the hole that we've already created. After a quick test fit with the ferrule, it's time for some finish, which is several coats of spray lacquer. My spray booth is ultra high tech, as you can see here. It's pretty much a coffee can with a hole in it that I can put the item into, right next to a box fan with an air filter. And I don't much like waiting for coats to dry, so this is a pretty good opportunity for me to work on my dart game. So, if you've made it this far, you might be wondering what the auger in is. Well, don't bother Googling it because it doesn't exist yet, but it's the greatest idea for a bar in the history of ideas for bars. This project is a gift for the man who conceptualized the auger in. May it one day pour thousands of beers in St. Martin. Thanks for joining us. Don't miss out on all the other fun stuff going on at Do It. We'll be regularly posting new videos about anything and everything. We may not be professionals, but hey, we learn as much from our mistakes as we do from successes, am I right?
Cheers.